But
Are we
yeah,
recording, Joe?
yeah, I'm already recording, sir.
Okay then.
So I mean, we can always chop it up. Like we can always
Chop, chop,
just put
screw,
it.
chop, chop, and screw.
Yeah, chop and screw
All right,
like
bro.
Bumby.
Let's
How's
do
well?
it.
Let's do it.
Go ahead, Joe. Introduce
So
yourself. What's
so
going
what's
on?
good? What's good? So my name is Joe Misael Posada Triana, and yours is.
Anacleto Giovanni Contreras.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So we're doing this podcast between two borders. So this is our first attempt of anything and everything within this new endeavor we're jumping in. Right? Like I using big words, like I use them every day. I see.
Yeah, Mr. GRE.
And she, I mean, damn it, we still working a couple of things here and there, but nah, man, I took the GRE one time. I took the test, the practice test for a class that I was taking at UTD, and literally I took it on a Sunday night, rushing it because that Monday I had that first class, and the professor was like, "Make sure you bring it." I don't remember what score I got because I did not sit down half a day to do that exam. I did it like in 3-4 hours. Just like at some point, I was just like, I think one of my one of my professors told me just to get C, so I'm just guessing C on most of these because it's just practice. And I'm definitely regret that. But
It's
yeah,
like,
so this is our first attempt. You want to walk us through what who what when where how and why on this?
yeah, no. I mean, that's what we're gonna go ahead and just do. Just introduce ourselves, a little background of us, and like Joe said, just. I mean, this is gonna be a little a fun thing that we do, and we're gonna, as we continue, we're gonna evolve it and add more things to it. But yeah, like I said, my name is Anacleto Giovanni Contreras. I do speak fast when I get nervous. Joe speaks faster. So I was born and raised in Ojitos de Santa Lucia, Zacatecas. Um, I was raised by my grandparents, my aunt. My parents left me there when I was about 9 months. Not because they wanted to leave me, but because my mom, out of fear that she might lose me whenever she crossed the river. So I was raised by my grandparents for 6 years, and then I came to America around 1997. I was about 6 years of age. Um, yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed being born in Mexico. Just gives you a different perspective whenever you come to America and dive into everything that goes on here in America. But hey, that's a little background. Little
Man,
background
that's
of me.
how was that experience like? I guess I know we'll go in depth and like the entire experience and how to make you feel, but I guess like 'cause you said you were 6 years old when you came, right? So how was like how were you feeling? Like I guess did you have an adrenaline kick in, or were you just like what am I doing? What's going on? Or you were just like I guess I'm just going to the store on the other side. Like what how did that feel?
It was that thing that kicks in the fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just a lot of different things all at once. And I mean, as we get further, we will dive deeper into different ones. But not being raised with my parents and with my family for 6 years. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that within itself was a big change. And then coming into a different country that my culture was different than the culture here in America. Even though I mean, I came to Mexican parents, it was just fast paced. The language was different. The lifestyle was different. So it was a lot of change, drastic change
Mm-hmm.
all at once. And I mean, I wasn't a baby, but I wasn't old enough. So yeah, it was a big roller coaster.
Nah, man, I can imagine, man. Like I've, I was born and raised here in Oak Cliff, and hence the hat. Shout out to them too for nice hat. Pero como se me no, yeah, like I honestly had never left. I had never gone to Mexico until I became an adult, and it actually was last year. So I had turned. I mean, I was like 28 and something. And it was I think last May actually of last year that I went, and I mean that experience as an adult it's just different because like the closest I ever got to was when I was in El Paso when I was doing recruitment work, and I can see the motherland, right on the other side. I was in El Paso, Ciudad Juarez, and I was just like, man, like I can only imagine what that looks like, and you can see, the fence, right, and and then driving up to the service road, close to the high schools in that area. So as an adult, when I went over, like I it was just like interesting because like this is like the first time I am going to a place where my parents are from. And I actually went to Mexico City, which is, was known as El Defe, right? Because I think they're no longer known as DF, it's just Mexico City, Mexico. But that's, the area where my mom was raised y todo eso. So it's just like having that connection. Like I felt like for me was like, it was a it was a neat experience for me on that and in that sense. So
So
no,
your
but yeah,
mom is from
yeah,
El,
yeah, from my mom's side, and then my dad's from Guanajuato, so Talas Momias, he says. He was really good friends with them.
when are you gonna
No,
go
but
to Guanajuato?
yeah, well, that's the plan. The plan is to visit. I don't know. I'm hoping, in the next upcoming years. I know I've talked to my sister about it, so hopefully we get a chance to go. And hopefully there's an opportunity to go as a family. But if anything, it's just my sister and I, and maybe my brother. My brother actually likes going out there. I believe he goes to Acapulco every now and then up there. So he's enjoying living his best life, which is good. I want to get there, and so that's what we're working towards to, right? To be able to relax every now and then. But yeah, no, pero como se llama? Like I'm, born and raised in Oak Cliff. I've been living my entire life. I had a realization a couple years ago that I've been living on the same, well, not on the same street, but like adjacent to the same street my entire life. So I grew up off of Ewing or Ewing, back on the other side of 35, closer to Colorado. My early years, and a couple, bounced around a couple of apartments, and then transitioned to the other side of 35, a little bit deeper south into Oak Cliff, by Roosevelt High School, and still off of Ewing, man. Like, so it's interesting because like it's just seeing that in itself, transitioning here, and even moving in with my parents and then moving out. I'm still living off of Ewing down the street from them, and so it's interesting. But yeah, it's like growing up on this side, I feel like it's a good what can I say, like not comparison, but like seeing growing up on one side of 35 in apartments half my life, and then the other side of 35 living in a house half my life. But then it's also like, when you live in apartments, everybody and their mamas know each other, right? Everybody, all the families know each other, for good or bad. You still know each other. And then on this side for us, it was different, especially growing up. Like, I went from having a lot of friends, that I knew, versus here it was just like I was the only kid that was my age. It was a little bit older folks, and it was an interesting crowd too, because it was back early 2001. So it's like my middle school, I think elementary, middle school, and what have you. So that was an interesting upbringing in that sense, and realizing that as an adult, we don't get a chance to reflect these things or understand them as kids until we're an adult, and we're here. So
You were raised in Oak Cliff or South Oak Cliff? Because
well, both sides, Oak Cliff and then South Oak Cliff. But interesting enough, if I go on Google Maps right now, it shows me that I actually live in is it Cedar Springs? Cedar Springs, and by West Davis. Man, I forgot. It's Cedar something. Where like if I zoom out, it tells me that like I'm not even, like, technically it's like not even like Oak Cliff. I'm trying to find it, but no me sale in my Google map right now. But it's just interesting that I see that like it's actually considered something else. But to me, I'm like, man, I'm down the street from SOC,
I
and
was
my
gonna
home
say,
school is
man, it's behind the zoo.
right. Exactly right behind the Dallas Zoo. So it's like, well, not right behind. Well, actually, yeah, I mean, a couple of minutes away from it.
Joe repping that South Side.
Yeah, South side. South side of realist. Nah.
The other
But
side
yeah,
of the railroad tracks.
right. Handle. Actually, yeah, was it what Big Tuck, the one that does that does a video when you see like literally like every place that he's on there. I'm like, yeah, I know that place. I know that we all know that spot,
Oh yeah,
because
Big Tuck.
yeah, and all that. But no, see, like that's that's a little bit. I'm one of nine. There's nine of us. On my dad's side, two on my mom, my sister, and I. So I have we have an interesting family dynamic too. It's one of those things where like a third of my family was born in Mexico. The 2/3 of us were born here, but then even the 2/3 that are here, like literally half of us are, like my sister and I. We're first gen, mm, you know, first gen Mexican Americans, right? If that, right? Because Chicano, whatever, and we'll dive into what all that means to us. But then, like, I have my other brother and sister that they're half white and half Mexican, right? So, but like looking at them, I'm like, man, my dude, you like 6 feet and you're white, you know, as a middle school kid, I mean, even the early age, remember, and I'm like, oh snap, you know, but it was good because, you know, I realized that I had, I always thought that I like, you know, I felt like I was the only, like the, you know, one out of two, and my sister was, you know, younger than I was. But as an adult, I've learned to appreciate that and understand that, you know, and understand my father too in that sense.
That's a big family.
Yeah,
That's a big family.
it is, man. But I see is sorry, my on a side gig, I forgot that it's like past 3:30 at the time of this right recording. No, but you know, my you know, we just as we're setting up, like, you know, what we've done all of these things, like setting up our rooms, our office, having to work from home, all this good stuff. My mom is also working on getting her room set up at home, like her old, because, you know, it's just her and my pops, and so she's dedicating a room to be able to work on her things, and she's just showing me what
Is she
she's
still
built
doing
to
the
get.
crafts?
Well, yeah. So, you know, she did a lot of it. She did a lot of crafts for Baby Z's baby shower. So she actually did, if not, actually she did all of it. 100% was homemade. She made it herself, put it together, and what have you. And so so through that last Christmas, we bought my sister, my brother-in-law, and myself, and my fiance. We all bought we bought basically like her setup for her room to be able to do crafts. Like we bought her a nice table, a nice like cabinet space and what have you and all that. And so como se llama, so she has all of that, and so she's working on putting it together right now. And so she sent me a picture on how it looks, and so we're excited for that because I mean that's she wants to continue doing that and see what all we can you know, we have to keep ourselves busy, especially during these times. And my dad's been home more longer, so you know, I bet he's driving her crazy.
Yeah, that's what we see.
You see,
So we're educated, Joe.
are we?
That's what a society says, man. We're educated.
Right.
So we started from the bottom,
And
now
now
we have
are
2
we
degrees. What?
2 degrees, verdad? You
2
see,
degrees.
man, it's yeah, man, it's well, I mean, technically we have three. You know, if we consider our high school,
And we got 3 degrees.
we got 3 degrees,
But there's
man.
still people not graduating high school, which is
No,
something we got to change.
fortunately, yeah, you know, we see the statistics out there that exist, and we're still struggling. 10 years after we've graduated high school, we're still struggling to move the needle. Obviously not by one's fault, but you know, there's a lot of change that needs to happen. And but yeah, we got 6 degrees, man. Like man, I forget what percentage we fall into in that, you know.
Economically, we're probably like in the top 10% or
Right.
somewhere around there. Because, I guess,
Yeah.
we make good dough. We make good dough, but they forget the debt that we had to get into to get to that place. You know, how many,
That's the American dream, that, you know, you can only get good credit by being in debt. And like, so that that's what they tell us, you know, don't pay off all your bills because that's how you get good credit.
No, it's crazy, Joey. And like talking about debt, dude, like people that are fighting for us to, those that have debt to get it cleared away. But we push our kids to stay away from debt. So how is it going to benefit our folks? It's going to benefit the other folks and not us, because we keep saying, hey, don't take out that loan. Don't take out that loan. But if they do pass it, we're going to be pissed. Like, what the hell, you told me not to take a loan? This person took out $60,000 and wiped clean, and me, shit.
Yeah, you're right. Like it's interesting, and because I remember we were in high school, like even like adults around us was telling us, some, not all of them, would tell us, like, if you got to take a loan, take it, but if you don't, you don't need no loans. And I'm like, why don't I? And it's like, well, because we'll figure it out with financial aid and whatnot. And I guess that was a way of saying, like, well, I mean, you're poor, so you'll get money for it. Which, I mean, ultimately that's what they were saying. I was an adult. I figured, I'm like, oh, that's what you meant, that financial was going to come in. But even then, it wasn't enough. But understanding that, man, I remember, like, even like buying my first car, I felt like, man, you know what if we, like, it was, pay cash for it, and because it's a good thing, because that's what my dad taught me. My dad taught me to, if you need something and you don't got the cash for it, then you don't need it. And I'm like, what? And it's like, yeah, like, I mean, if you needed it, you would have the cash for it. And I'm like, well, I mean, what if it's an emergency? It ain't an emergency, because if it's an emergency, you'll figure it out. And so I was like, that made no sense, pops. But to an extent, like, just like with loans, I was like, nah, stay away from them. And was it 3 years ago? I was with 25, turning 25. I'm applying for a credit card, and I'm getting denied left and right. And I'm like, why? Like, I don't owe anybody anything. If anything, people out there owe me money. And they were like, well, what you have to understand is that you don't got credit, and you only get credit by being in debt. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to apply for credit. So, if I don't have a credit card, how am I supposed to get credit? And that was my thought. And, I had to get a secure card. So basically I had to pay, like give my own money and use it as my own credit. So I was giving myself credit. I was like, so that's how it works. I have a couple of credit cards, but it was a struggle, man. Like it was a struggle understanding that.
I got too many credit cards, too many debt,
Right. And then for what?
and have kids and say, "Hey, I take care of my debt now."
Right. That's what I'm gonna tell Baby Z.
That's right.
I'm gonna tell Baby Z, like, man, there's this song by Ice Cube. It's a little vulgar, so I won't repeat the lyrics.
Which one?
But
You want the arrested president?
no, no, it's the one, because he talks about, like, this was the album Laugh Now Cry Later. So this was one of, like, the very few albums that I actually purchased at that age, right? And I don't even remember, this was maybe when I was in high school. I forget what year it came out. But I remember buying that, and then I would, my CD player would listen to it or what have you. And then he talks about, like, he had his little kid, and he was talking about, like, his kid was just born and he already messed up his credit because he's using because he's a junior, I think. His son is a junior, so he's literally using his kid's name, and he's like, don't tell him because I messed up, his credit. Okay, I think it's like I ducked up his credit, let him regret it, right? And to an extent, I feel like, we see that a lot. At least I saw that with my dad. Like, they would use our names or whatever to, it's $300. You'd be fine.
Man.
Right?
That's common, Joe. Like, dang, like, come on.
We're gonna take a credit card. We're gonna go in debt for, like, I don't know, Home Depot or a quinceañera or something. But best believe we're not gonna go in debt for education, right? And I think that's like something that we definitely need to address, because we, and maybe not necessarily our parents, right? But understanding, like, they definitely didn't know, like, what credit was. Not credit, rather loans were, right? But we were willing to go for quote unquote traditions, go in debt for those, or ask people or what have you. But when it came to education, and I had seen actually a meme a couple years ago where it said, like, man, we should have, like, padrinos for, like, textbooks, padrinos for a class, right? Instead of, and I'm like, man, that's actually a pretty legit idea. Like, let's say, like, let's, and I understand, again, I understand, like, the meaning to an extent. I understand the meaning, like, of a quinceañera, or I understand, for, like, traditions that we have and what have you. But imagine, like, if for men, women, boys, girls, what have you, like, instead of having, like, this padrinos for X, Y, and Z, you have them for education, right? And you have for education, and you're like, man, like, my padrino, el compadre de my pops bought me my books for the semester. He dropped $500-600 for that, or for the rentals or what have you.
Yeah, it's the priorities, man. And I mean, from what I remember, my parents always focused on education, education, education. But whenever things needed to get there, many parents do back out. Like, well, I mean, if you don't have the money, where are you going? Choose something simple. Go be a teacher. I mean, even within our community, how we put down our teachers in that regards. I mean, in other countries, teachers, are held to a standard as doctors and lawyers. But yeah, no, I mean, they're just priorities, and many of our parents, our community, do not have full priorities, and their children learn from them, and they keep repeating the cycles, and I don't think it's going to change unless they are willing to change. I don't think anyone else can change that cycle for an individual unless they really want it themselves, right? And I mean, we can look at within our own families, and we see that cycle continue, because sometimes we like being in a negative state of mind, state of being, because that's where we feel the most comfortable. And change is going to be very uncomfortable. And once we start having those conversations, like, no, you're not a woman once you're 15 years old. You're a woman when you're able to pay for your own college, right? And then, provide that education as how can this 15-year-old understand that concept of, college, anyone can pay for college now. There's a lot of resources, a lot of money, but there's not a lot of real things that teach our kids where to go, how to do this, because it's really not about the grades. It's more about how you're able to communicate, how you're able to sell yourself, and the different skills that we really don't teach our kids. Microsoft right now, in the state that we're in, technology is the key. Technology has always been the key, but now more, right? Are you
Mm.
good at Google? Are you good using Zoom? Are you good using other things that you can add to your resume so you can stand out? And that's going to be a big challenge on our job because all these SATs are being waived. I mean, how are kids going to stand down whenever they go apply to those schools? Because I mean, now they are. So you have the other side of, I'm gonna say, the railroad tracks, right? Individuals that you know start their kids for the SAT when they're 5 or 6 years old, and go take all the sports, go do all that, go do all this. So those kids have been preparing for 5 years ago, and our kids, they prepare, when they're about to graduate.
The year,
That's a
senior year.
that's a whole change of mindset within our whole education system here locally, statewide, nationally. It's just I don't think we don't have. Well, like I said again, it's a personal thing, Joe. Like, because if like for your child, and if God blesses me with any kids, they're going to be well off because me as a father, as a person, understand that my suffrage is going to lead to success for my offsprings and their kids and so forth, right? So there's going to be a time where my kids become so privileged, people are gonna hate them. It's just gonna be like, I mean, you got to understand that my dad started, well, my parents started from the bottom. They gave me a foundation, right? I had to break so many barriers. I had to go, you know do everything, suicidal thoughts, drugs, etc. uh, be in a room where everyone is white, everyone doesn't think like you, everyone's rich, everyone's this, and I mean, you did that yourself too. And not for me, for the people that are gonna come, right? Like, our kids are gonna be, they're gonna be scoring perfect SAT scores, right? They're gonna be doing a lot of things, knowing different skills that I didn't even know, right? They're gonna have a bank account once they're born. So by the time they're 18 years old, they're gonna have money saved up for a house, not even school, a house.
Wow,
we gotta
yeah.
we gotta teach our kids more about assets. Like this house that I have. I mean, it's still not my house. Still, it's a liability to me. That's the thing that we say that you have a house, it's an asset. No, it's a liability because it's still not mine. So I mean, screw up, they gotta come and take it away, Joe.
Right. Right. We're gonna edit that out now. No,
No.
but it's like it's like that generational wealth of yeah, wealth, right? Like, and doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, right? It's you have. I was reading, like, I remember seeing like a someone shared, like, on one of the social media platforms, right, of the many that exist right now, just saying, like, man, like, we're gonna be like, our kids, when it comes, obviously college is gonna be, the process may not be, it might be 100% identical, but it's also not going to be 100% like like totally different either. But in a sense, like, it's going to be like, we're going to be that advisor. We're going to be their advisors, their tutors, their guidance counselors, on top of whatever other resources they have access to. But you're right, because they're going to know things, like I remember growing up, and I didn't understand that. Well, for me, it was fun, right, to go out and push a lawnmower because I was a kid. I didn't know any better, and at 8 years old and having my own lawnmower, which I still actually have, it doesn't work, but that's gonna be baby Z's first. He's gonna be that's gonna be his eighth birthday gift. And the difference between him coming with me to push a lawnmower and the difference that I have with my dad is that the necessity of it. Like, with my dad, we had to, because it was an extra source of income. Who doesn't like, more income to come in, right, to help pay bills, food, and all this good stuff. But with him, it's gonna be like, no, you're gonna learn a little bit of what I went through, like, because I feel like pushing a lot more gave me the work ethic that I have. you know, and it built everything to an extent. It's like one of those strong foundational things that I have in me, and I appreciate that so much. But when I was in high school, I didn't appreciate it as much. You know, it was just like, oh man, I gotta wake up at 6 7 in the morning, gotta get ready. Couldn't even finish watching cartoons, and it was like, man, we gotta go push the lawnmower. You know, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I remember talking to some good friends of mine too. You know, talking about like our childhood, right? And literally, one of them asked that tells me like, "Damn, Joe, did you not have a childhood?" And I was like, "Nah, I did. I mean, I watched Yu-Gi-Oh, I watched Pokemon, I found what is it, Lucha Libre or the mini one, whatever. Like I watched those, but because they came out extremely early, but by 7 a.m. we're already out the door. By 7:30, by 8 a.m. we're already halfway done with the first, with the first lawn that we were doing. By 3 4 p.m. we've already done 8 9 under our belt, and at our peak, at my peak, I was, man, we were doing left and right, and so, but to me it was like I thought it's a, and there's something like we're always struggled with my pops, bumping heads and what have you, but it was one of the things that I didn't understand. And with baby Z, like, I'm hoping that we're able to have that, because I mean, to understand that, to see like, oh man, like this is why I did it with my father. Now I get to do it with my son. But when my son is like, hey, like this is, my pops taught me that, nothing is ever given, it's earned, right? I wanted new shoes in middle school in eighth grade. Guess what I had to do? I had to push the lawnmower for a whole month to get them, because I knew if I asked my parents, they would have given them to me, but I wouldn't have known or valued them, or valued the value. They had understood the value of a dollar for that sense. So it's like, that generational cycle that we want to change, right? My dad, all he did was work. Our parents, all they do is work, right? And because I sometimes, like, even as an adult, I'm looking at my finances, I'm like, damn, like by the time my dad was 28 29, he already had X, Y, and Z. And and he went out, don't get me wrong, he went out, he partied in his own different way, and but he, that was where his money went to. And outside of that, it was just like, no, I'm gonna save the rest of it. He didn't like, oh, I need to go buy new shoes. No, he had his 3 pairs of boots, 3 pairs of jeans, 3 pairs of of shirts growing up. And one was for work, one was for to be at home, and one was to go out. And man, he took care of he put them in a little package. And so things like that you learn, that you get to carry over and understand. As an adult, I then appreciate more, because I get to reflect on that, and and seeing all of that. But you're right, like we're gonna be that for our kids. Our kids are gonna have are already privileged. My son is already privileged. I grew up in a I nowadays they call them studios, right? When you have like it's literally a flat. You open the door, like, oh man, I got a studio. Instead of studio, you open the door and that's all you see the kitchen, where the restroom goes, the living room, and all that. Well, guess what? I grew up in a studio too, but it was called an efficiency apartment. It was a little, same size, smaller, whatever you want to call it, on the list side of 35 in Colorado. And, and for me, it was just like, that's what I grew up in. And when my sister was born, we moved to a 1 bedroom apartment. And I asked my mom, where do we sleep? And it's like, well, you had your bed, and your sister had her bed, and then your daddy just slept on the couch or whatever. We figured it out. And I was like, damn, and baby Z, man, this boy, he sleeps in the bed, and like, he takes the whole bed. Like he's at a stage where he rolls. And it's funny because my mom tells me stories of me when I was younger with my dad as a baby, telling him, hey dad, I was here first, and just by playing around, pushing him around. And so see, it's not talking yet, but guess what? He's like, hey fam, scoot over, and so just little things like that. But it's one of those things that we hope that our kids, the next generation, get to do what they want to do, right? With the support of from us, and with the understanding that we know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're not going to be perfect parents either. We're going to have our flaws, and we're going to fail at things, but we have perspective, and we have experience from living that, from being a first gen kid to now the second gen, for sure.
And I mean, we'll get more into, talking more about different the generational things. First generation Texan, first generation American, first generation Mexican American. Being the first of first, like, being the first one in your family to get a bachelor's, and then, being the first one in your family to get a master's. And that within itself, on a national scale, I mean, there's not many individuals that look like us
Yep.
getting masters, right? And right now, the whole landscape is changing. There's many more, females and going and get higher degrees, and males are staying behind, and and that's we want everyone to have equal success for that, and I feel that I don't know what's going on. I guess our male population just wants to work and wants to get that fast money, that quick,
Mm-hmm.
gone in a week money,
Right.
instead of understanding long term, right? And there's a lot of things that I see within the schools that we serve is just that lack of male role model. And whenever I talk about male, I'm not talking about thinking about male as a dominant figure. No, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm blessed for. Being raised by my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunt. They taught me what equality was. So majority of the time, equality was that whenever my grandma says something, my grandfather listened, and
Mm-hmm.
that was equality in the other sense. That I'm not here for you to satisfy me. I'm here for me to satisfy you, and vice versa. But we'll get more in detail with that as we progress. This is the first one, just a little short introduction. There's probably going to be different things that we bring back up in the different other podcasts, just to expand more and just so you can learn the full context of what we meant when we said X, Y, and Z. Oh,
No, for
clear.
right. No, for sure. No, and and I think this is like how we those books exist. They're like autobiographies where like it's just yourself writing about your life, and what have you. Which you kind of have something like that published right recently. You have your book that you published. So we'll definitely touch on that as well. But like this is what this podcast to an extent is going to be. It's going to be a reflection of who and what we are, but also the line of work that we're in. Anacleto mentioned, you mentioned earlier that we're professionals, we're educated, we're in education. Como se llama? Who am I becoming? That's his book out on Amazon. Como se llama? But like the ability, the thing is like this is our experiences, right? Because we can go find people that are doing research over this, right? Understanding why Latino success, Hispanic success, whatever they're labeling us, or whatever they want to address us as, what have you. But they're doing research in our success, right? And they can read all the books, they can do all the statistics, all of that good stuff, right? And they'll publish it and they say this is why we think. Again, this is why we think, and this is what research shows. And to an extent, numbers I guess don't lie, right? But to an extent, like numbers are just numbers. They're not, that my experience is not defined by a number. My life is not dictated by a number, right? Not by none of ours are. And so, and this is what we try to do, because ultimately, like in the line of work that we do, all of this is going to coincide with what we're doing professionally, what we've seen, our people go through, gente, la raza, all of this X, Y, and Z that we're seeing, what we address those things, and with a little hint of who and what we are too. And hopefully we get to engage in dialogue, not only you and I, but then also with anybody that listens, and has opinions, good, bad, or ugly, whatever it is. Let us know, and we can definitely have a conversation, and this podcast will allow us to have those folks to come in and talk, and to talk with. So I mean, this is the start of something hopefully great that we're enjoying, that we're gonna do, and we're gonna stay consistent and keep going and see where this takes us. So I guess with that, any final words?
Out.
Peace. We peace. So
If we
we
start
good.
talking, if we start talking, Joe,
Yes, do ¿verdad? Alrighty. Well, again, so again, my name is Joe Posada. We have,
Beto Contreras.
and this is Between Two Borders. Thank you all. You have a great day.
Bye bye.